also just mention, they were also mentioned earlier, but it is also good that we remember those who have always kept the ceremonies alive. Judge Aurora Resina, our President Emeritus, who is no longer with us, she has always kept the flame of this UNAP and this ceremony is always ever flaming. So thank you, Judge Aurora Resina. To Dr. Amelia Lourdes Benitez Reyes, and of course, to an uncle of mine, the husband of Tita Olivia, Secretary Bobby Romulo. Let me first thank the United Nations Association of the Philippines for gathering all of us here this morning. I am honored to be speaking in front of you, especially since we are going to remember General Carlos P. Romulo. We thank the UNAP for always remembering General Romulo and his role in the creation and shaping of the United Nations. May I also point out that General Romulo showed Filipinos that we as a nation and as individuals can make a contribution and be significant in the world stage. General Romulo recognized the burden of which you and I equally bear. The burden of being an heir to an incredibly rich history and a limitless future. The difference lies in how swift and strong General Romulo embraced that burden. Something which we must endeavor for the Filipino youth to realize and embrace.
Rushing back to me, of brown-skinned men, putting out to sea in ships that were as frail as their hearts were stout. Over the sea, I see them come, borne upon the billowing wave and the whistling wind, carried upon the mighty swell of hope. Hope in the free abundance of new land that was to be their home and their children's forever. This is the land they sought and found, every inch of shore that their eyes were set upon, every hill and mountain that beckoned them with a green and purple invitation, every mile of rolling plain that their view encompassed, every river and lake that promised a plentiful living and the fruitfulness of commerce in the hallowed spot to me. By the strength of their hearts and hands, by every right of law, human and divine, this land and all the appurtenances thereof, the black and fertile soil, the seas and lakes and rivers teeming with fish, the forest with their inexhaustible wealth in wildlife and timber, the mountains with their bowels swollen with minerals. This whole of this rich and happy land has been, for centuries without number, the land of my fathers. This land I received in trust, and this land from them in trust I shall pass on to my children, and so on until the world is no more. I am a Filipino. In my blood runs the immortal seed of heroes, seed that flowered down the centuries in deeds of courage and defiance. In my vein yet pulses the same hot blood that sent Lapu-Lapu to battle against the first invader of this land, that nerved Lacandula in the combat against the alien foe, that drove Diego Silang and the Gohoy into rebellion against the foreign oppressor. That seed is immortal. In that same self-seed that flowered in the heart of Jose Rizal, that morning in Bagumbayan where a volley of shots put an end that was mortal in him and made his spirit deathless forever. That same that flowered in the hearts of Bonifacio in Balintawak, of Rogerio del Pilar in Tiragpas, of Antonio Luna in Kalumpit, that bloomed in flowers in the frustration and the sad heart of Emilio Aguinaldo at Palanan, and yet burst forth royally in the heart of Manuel L. Quezon when he stood at the last at the threshold of ancient Malacanang Palace in the symbolic act of possession and racial vindication. The seed I bear with me is an immortal seed. It is the mark of my manhood, the symbol of dignity as a human being. Like the seeds that were once buried in the tomb of Tutankhamen many thousand years ago, it shall grow and flower and bear fruit again. It is the insignia of my race, and my generation is but a stage in the unending search of my people for freedom and happiness. I am a Filipino, child of the marriage of the East and the West. The East, with its languor and mysticism, its passivity and endurance, was my mother, and my sire was the West, that came thundering across the seas with the cross and the sword and the machine. I am of the East, an eager participant in the spirit and its struggles for liberation from the imperialist yoke. But I also know that the East must awaken from its centuries sleep, shake off the lethargy that has bound its limbs, and start moving where destiny awaits. For I am too of the West, and the vigorous peoples of the West have destroyed forever the peace and the quiet that was once ours. I can no longer live a being apart from those whose world now trembles to the roar of bomb and cannon shot. I cannot say of a matter of universal life and death, of freedom and slavery for all mankind, for it concerns me not. For no man and no nation is an island, but a part of the main. There is no longer any East and West.
Her alarm goes off and she gets up to watch the morning news. Doesn't work no more, but tells a lot of stories.